Hey, what's up? How's it going? My name is Faern, and what you found here is my weekly energy report. And every week, what I do is I tap into the phase that we're going through as a collective, and I provide energy sensitive people or anybody really with a little bit of a guide as to what phase we're in and how we can work with it. So, this week we have coming up, we're in a very inspirational phase, and this is a good time to you know, get an idea of what's really going on for you. You should have illuminations in some way, shape, or form. They may not be the ones you're looking for, but that's kind of how this works. And then after that, we move into what I like to call an attraction phase, but we have to watch out for that whole thing. We're not trying to do any kind of law of attraction thing. It's actually something that has to do with what we're working on personally. And then we move right into a very constructive phase where you're going to feel like you are doing the work and it is going to feel supported, but it's not going to necessarily be easy. So, this is the first time I've done a little short reading or preview. So, I would love it if you would stay tuned and see the rest of the week's information here. Thanks. See you later. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Welcome to my weekly report. Now, I've had to shift the days around a little bit based on what's going on in my life, so I'm still going to put them out every week, but I'm shifting a little bit when I can do them, and I'm very in the moment with this. So it kind of has to happen very close to when I am meant to give it to you, which is why everything comes in, at a certain time. So now that you know that, welcome to your weekly report. It is Saturday the 22nd, and we are in what I would consider a go window, but it's a little bit strange because how it feels for me physically is probably very different than people elsewhere, mostly because I'm in California and there are forest fires going on pretty much all around, not in the city that I'm in, but all the surrounding areas. And we have a lot of smoke out there. The light is really weird. And, I'm very concerned about a lot of people. So, that being said, I still feel the collective pulse of the go window. So the collective itself may not feel this, but in the consciousness community, there are days, I think I've spoken about this already, probably last week. There are days where we get this extra impulse, and what that is a combination of the days of influx, where we're getting a lot of energy and new things to process with our body. And when there are certain length inside that time frame, the energy for us physically goes up and down a lot. And we don't look at it like a high vibe as in positive and a low vibe as in negative, because it's not so much even a vibration. It is part of being able to, it's part of integration. It's part of processing. It's part of understanding energy sensitivity versus being a sensitive person. Okay, so we're in one of those zones, and on top of that, we're already in a very inspirational phase. So for some of us, this is like double whammy, and it's not a bad thing, although, once you open the pathway, you get what you get, and you have to choose wisely. So right now is a lot of discernment. For me personally, besides all the fires, yesterday, for example, was a very active day for a lot of people. Super, super active. I had a lot of fantastic and amazing conversations. However, a lot of these conversations also came with some news that might be considered negative or bad news. But there were also amazing and fantastic. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I think there's a spot on my on my lens. Anyhow, amazing and fantastic things happening, or news coming in at the same time. So For the highly energy, I keep going like this, the highly energy sensitive person, this might be challenging to make the choice of how to approach, because none of this is actually wrong, but it is not hard to pick something that's going to feel a little bit like a regression. And this is just a dance that we all go through at some point or another. If you're having that dance now, understand that it's the ego dance and that you can work with that. You don't have to be banished to be an egoic person, like is the old way of looking at the ego. There's something you can do as an energy sensitive person for that. And if you have questions about that, lay them on me. There are places to put comments. Okay. So from this highly inspirational phase, the things that are going to come up that are most important are, well, the things that are going to come up are, like I said, varied, and you have to choose the ones that are most important, and be very careful that you don't choose something that is kind of vain or very object oriented. Now, if you need food and stuff like that, those objects, you want to try and get those. Okay, that's not what I mean. I mean some kind of, the word just left, I swear. Some kind of putting yourself on a pedestal action, It's not the time for that. We're in a big shift for humanity. Try to focus on things you didn't realize you necessarily needed. I feel like it will show up that way if you give yourself the space to see it. Yeah. If you don't, no big deal. Work on whatever you're working on. That will most likely be the right thing also. You don't ever have to really sort it out this way. You can watch for things and see and take notes and, see how things shift. That is the best way to take in information. In my opinion, of course, I'm open to discussion. Okay? So let's see. I'm looking at some notes. Okay. One of the things that I wrote down about this longer phase is that it is a really good thing to move the body. Now, I kind of always say that, but most of the time that has to do with sustainability of the system. Right now, the moving of the body is like a message giver. So get a little extra sweat, or try some things that are challenging. If you're a yoga practitioner and you need some ideas, just let me know. Happy to give them to you. And try not to be too decision oriented in your practice. So what I mean by that is, don't do the thing where you work something out on the mat. There's nothing wrong with that, but right now I would recommend doing the practice, and while you're resting, really pay attention to what comes up. It might be physical, it might be a diagram, it might be none of these things. It might be something that I haven't thought of yet. And I mean, chill out and watch what comes. Yeah, write it down. Might be a really important message. This is when I get some messages. Another time that I get messages, when I'm doing the dishes or something like that. Okay? Mm-hmm. From this longer phase, we're going to move into a shorter phase, which is a one-day situation. Here in San Francisco, it's on Tuesday. And it is one of those days that I like to consider a transition day, but this one is about bringing things in versus making a shift. So both of those are types of transitions. This one has more to do with important things for our life, okay, than physical movement of things. Yeah. One of the things that's really coming in about this this day, this 1 day phase in between the two longer phases that we have, is that if you take the time to give yourself the space, some really important things have the energy to come in. And I it's like important things, saying that important things seems so lofty, but we all have different things going on in our lives, especially right now. So just know that whatever thing is important for you is going to help the people around you as well. May not seem like that right away, especially if you're in the zone where you're not sure what's actually going on yet. Totally normal. Let that be a place to have some space, okay? One of the best ways to choose, as I was saying before, a lot of choices will come up. The best way, if you're confused about how to choose, is to choose the thing that actually nourishes what's been nourishing you. So you want to return energy to something that has been giving you energy as well. Most of the time, we don't necessarily need to make this distinction, especially when you get in there and you're really working from, when you really have this communication, it becomes constant. It becomes something you've worked on enough that it's like learning how to talk. After a while, you just kind of talk. It's that kind of energy. And until you get there, if you ever have a moment where you're going, I really want to pick, but I don't know what to pick, go with the thing that has been nourishing you, not the one that you've been spending extra time on, just in case there's a choice there for you. You know what I mean? I do that. I've been doing that for a few years. It's not an easy practice, but I don't think any of this is necessarily easy. Here's the deal. All of those things that I've been talking about, the choices, the discernment, moving in the body, all of that, it is to set you up for a very constructive phase. So right after that, after Tuesday, wherever you are, after that day, first of all, the next day you might have to be restful. Just keep that in mind, especially since it's such a constructive phase. So if all of a sudden you're getting this information and a really strong inspiration that you have to work really hard, figuring out what the work is just as important as doing the work. But I recommend taking advantage of all of the time that you can so that when your body needs rest, you actually do it. It is completely possible that you will end up on a different timeline than expected. So, for example, me and my doing the energy sensitive readings, I'm considering that they should be done on certain phases, right? So this is just something I thought of. It's not something I'm doing. And for me, this made sense because it would give me the space to do them, but then I wouldn't be able to give them to you within a time frame that you could benefit from the information. So then it kind of made it void. Like, what's the point? It's like telling you something about yesterday and you can't do anything about it. That's just one example. Doing what is important for you is important. Choosing from what is nourishing you versus where you're spending excess time trying to get attention in some way, you have to weigh the balances and see how this is actually affecting you. It might be, it might be that all of a sudden you have a whole new zone of energy to work with because you took the time to pay a little bit more attention to these shifts when they're happening versus after. Yeah, because when you're looking back, it's really easy to kind of kick yourself like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. We have to try and be on our own timeline. Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. You might change your sleep pattern a little bit when you eat, what you've decided is actually nourishing for you. These things might change. They also might change back. So leave room for all of that kind of business too. The idea is not for rigidity. It's not even for finding a very special and specific pattern. It's for finding the way that you work, because there's a pattern there. It just may not match up with what you think is normal in some way or what you've been taught. I'm unwinding the same thing right now. I think this is part of August, being supportive for big changes and for hearing what's happening on the inside. All right. We will still be in this very constructive phase. We'll be deep in work by the time I come back next week. Thank you for being here and have a great week. Bye. If you enjoy these readings, I would love to invite you to check out my website. It's my name, Faern, Faern.me, and check out my shop, see my podcast there, and I have some other things, online yoga classes, and I'll be holding some workshops and things like that going forward. Check it out and let me know what you think. Thanks for being here. Bye.